What's up, guys? RDQ and me back again with another video. It's not Valentine's Day, so you don't gotta love me, but I would appreciate it if you were to like the video. We're not at Subway, but I would appreciate it if you were to sub to the channel. Alright, let's get into the video. This time we're gonna be talking about why the Clippers are unable to win a championship, why they don't succeed at the highest level. So the reason the Clippers weren't able to be successful at the highest level is because they don't have a playmaker. They have Kawhi and they have Paul George. They don't have any playmakers outside of Rondo. And Rondo doesn't play that much because he's a lot older and whatnot. And he's not too good of a scorer, so they don't really want him on the court too long. But when you look at their lineup, Reggie Jackson is not a playmaker at all. And Patrick Beverley is not a playmaker at all. And Kawhi has the ball in his hands the majority of the time. And he does make passes when he's double teamed, triple teamed, but he's not a playmaker. He doesn't set up full plays for people. He doesn't run pick and rolls. He doesn't do stuff that playmakers do because he's not a playmaker, really. He just sometimes makes the open pass to somebody. And Kawhi and Paul George on the court together have really shown us that they need a strong playmaker who starts and plays with them. Because Kawhi is the ball dominant. He's the best player. When he gets the ball, he's going to be able to do whatever he wants to do. But Paul George, if he's not ball dominant, he needs to be set up. He needs to have a playmaker to really give him those passes. We saw him doing really well against the Suns. He got 40 points a couple times. He was able to do really well, but that's because Kawhi wasn't there. So without Kawhi, Paul George is going to be successful. He has the ball in his hands. He can dribble. He can make his plays. But as a catch and shooter with Kawhi, he wasn't able to do well because he wasn't set up, as well as he could have been. But he can be very successful in that role, and he proved that with Westbrook. With Westbrook, he was ball dominant at certain points, but he was very, very good at catch and shoots during that year too. One of the best at catch and shoots for that year and one of the best three-point shooters that year. He was in MVP conversation. And the reasoning for that is that Westbrook is, way, way, way better of a playmaker than Kawhi will ever hope to be. So he set up Paul George for catch and shoots and better plays just because he's a better playmaker. He's just better at that. When Rondo's on the court, you see him doing that sometimes. But as I've said, Rondo is a lot older. He's not going to be on the court that long. So what they need to really improve, and, they had injuries this year, but even when everyone's healthy, they need a strong playmaker. Now, they don't need somebody who's at the level of Chris Paul, who's a superstar. They just need a really strong playmaker who hits a couple shots here and there and plays okay defense. Now, a perfect person I think they should target is Ricky Rubio, because Ricky Rubio playing for the Timberwolves, he averages 8 points and about 6.5 assists. And that's with playing 26 minutes on the Timberwolves. So being on the Timberwolves, where the only consistent options are really Cat and Anthony Edwards in his rookie season. D'Lo is good, D'Angelo Russell, but he was injured for the majority of last year, so he wasn't even passing to him. So for him to get 6.5 assists in 26 minutes to essentially just Cat and Towns, Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards, it shows that he can easily, if he went to the Clippers and he was getting 30-something minutes, he could easily average 10 assists. Easily. And he's a really great playmaker. He would set up Paul George for way better looks than he's getting right now. Reggie Jackson is not setting up anybody. Patrick Beverley does not set up anybody. So the only thing Patrick Beverley sets is charges. So there's nothing he's going to do in terms of, playmaking. Now, that's a great player for them to get, but I think the number one target and the best fit for them would be Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball is all the issues that people used to have with him. He improved on a lot of them, but all the issues he has, no one has ever knocked him on his defense and his playmaking. They are both his strongest attributes. He is one of the best playmakers in this league, really, in terms of the different kinds of passes he can throw, full court passes, the lobs, the court vision. He's a very, very good playmaker, and that's him passing to Brandon Ingram and Zion for the most part, but he does make passes to Josh Hart and other people. But those are the two stars, and he averages over 6 assists, about 6 assists. So I think it was 5.8, 5.9, 6 assists. But if he were to switch out Ingram and Zion with Kawhi and Paul George, oh, he can clearly be a 10 assist player as well, playing with those guys. And the fact that he's not expected to score at all, because playing with those guys, he really doesn't have to score. He only has to hit the occasional three or the open layup. And even if you want him to shoot threes, Lonzo has improved a lot in his three-point shooting. You know, he was 30%, last year. This year he was 38% from three and averaged almost 15 points. So if he was able to play with Kawhi and Paul George getting double teamed, he could be a 40% three-point shooter playing with them. And he can average 10 assists. He can easily average a double-double, be a 14 and 10 guy, with a steal a game, a block a game. So Lonzo, in terms of them, could really bring them to a point where they could sniff the finals. They really could have a chance at the championship if they were to add a guy like Lonzo, because he's going to be able to spread the floor a lot. And the fact that he only has to focus on court vision, a big issue why Lonzo isn't at his highest level is that playing with New Orleans, he still has to be a scorer in order for them to be successful. For him to go to the Clippers, he doesn't really have to be a scorer at all. Outside of the occasional open shot, he doesn't have to score. He can pass to the guys that they have on their team who are very capable scorers. Two stretch bigs and, in Morris and Ibaka, and then Kawhi and Paul George, and Reggie Jackson's a good scorer too. He just isn't a playmaker. So if Lonzo's able to play with all those guys, I really believe that they could be a finals team. They could be successful, and they could possibly be a championship team. So watch out for that. I know he's been on the target list, trade deadline. They were saying the Clippers might try to get him. That would have been their best chance. But if they're able to get him in free agency, it being free agency now, and then they're able to get Lonzo or, a different guy like Ricky Rubio or somebody else, a lesser value, but still someone who can contribute in the areas they need, I definitely believe that they'll have an opportunity to go to the championship, and they will be able to be, one of those fan favorites again. So hopefully they're able to make that. But, I was just letting you guys know that Kawhi and Paul George, it doesn't work at this, with the roster they have. The only way it's going to work is if they are able to add a strong playmaker to make plays for especially Paul George. So that being said, Kawhi's contract is up. Hopefully he signs the extension so that they can run it back and get a playmaker. But if not, they're going to have trouble if it's just Paul George. That team is not going anywhere if Kawhi does not stay. But, I'm going to call that a video. It's been RDQ and me. You already know. Socials down below, and I'll catch y'all.